Socialism is not a good idea that went wrong, and whenever you hear Republicans or conservatives say this, it's because they have the IQ of a kumquat. Socialism was a horribly evil idea that went completely right. It went exactly as they thought it was going to go. This was the design from the start.
Gotcha, bitch.
Socialism is a fundamentally immoral, evil, unfair, discriminatory, and disgusting system that violates off the bat 3 of the 10 commandments, right? You don't steal, God, not government, and you shouldn't be jealous of your neighbor's ass, right? That's in the actual language, correct?
Yes.
Not the Bill Clinton language. So,
I don't know why! I can't understand it! Look at this! Look what's underneath here! It's another shirt! Why? Why? Because I don't want to go to the cleaners that often, that's why. Come on. Okay, so it's just, I think it says something about our country when that guy is a leading advocate for one of the president.
Ladies and gentlemen, Ben Shapiro.
Well, I mean, of course one government policy leads to the next. If you raise the minimum wage, then it's going to raise the rents. When it raises the rents, you're going to have to build affordable housing. When you have to build affordable housing, you have to tax people to build the affordable housing. When you tax people to build the affordable housing, people move out of the city, and you have to raise taxes on the people who remain in the city, and this is how you hollow out the economy of a major metropolitan area in the United States.
Only,
Thug life.
Ben, do you agree that the religious liberties of Mr. McGrath were violated? Or that, you know,
I mean, I just have one question. By whom?
The Boy Scouts.
Okay, so in other words, just to make sure I'm getting this, your position on this is that you have the right to volunteer into a relationship with them, but they have no right to volunteer out of a relationship with you.
In a partnership, in partnerships, in consensual partnerships that I'm in anyway, we have a conversation about the contract. I signed a lot of papers. We are in contract together.
Were you
So
unaware
we can
that they had a position like this about gay Boy Scout leaders? Were you really unaware of that?
Were they
Really?
unaware of our policy? Evidently they were, because they signed us up.
Correct. They were unaware and you weren't. So that means
So-
they got out of the contract. You can't form a contract based on non-mutual consent. Done. Thug life. Because you say that you respect the Second Amendment, and you know I brought this here for you so that you can read it. It's the Constitution. And I would really like for you to explain to me what you would do about guns that would have prevented what happened in Sandy Hook. If you want to do what you did in the UK, right, which is ban virtually all guns, that is at least a fair argument. And we can have a discussion about whether that's something that we ought to do or
I've
not.
made it very clear.
Here's avoiding the breakdown of left and right
have
here
deliberately
is
tried to frame
irresponsible.
this as a left-wing attack on the American Constitution and the Second Amendment. Exactly what you've tried to do. You come in, you brandish your little book as if I don't know
My
what's
little
in
book,
there.
that's the Constitution of the United States. Our founding
I
document
know
here.
what's in your Constitution.
Do you really?
I've been debating this for a very long time.
And be lazy, never use a messy recipe. The cake will end up crazy. If you do the cooking by the book, then you'll have a
Break it down, bitch. Let me see you back it up. Drop that ass down, load it, pick that motherfucker up. Break it down, bitch. Let me see you back it up. Drop that ass down, load it, pick that motherfucker up. Now back that pussy, she's a motherfucker. Hey, back that pussy, she's a motherfucker. Now back that pussy, she's a
Employees' freedom is not infringed upon when they enter into a consensual relationship with an employer that includes certain types of health care.
Not consensual.
Of
There's
course
a
it is. They
power
can quit.
difference.
Who is
I mean,
forcing them? Where is the gun?
Huh?
Where is the gun? Who is forcing them? Where is the chain? Who is locking them to their
Stop
desk?
with the gun language.
No, but this is the reason that I use the gun language is because locking them to their
Stop
desk.
with the gun language.
No, but this is the reason that I use the gun language is
No, but this is the reason.
Stop with the gun language.
The reason that I use the gun language is because it is vitally important for people to understand that every government measure at the end of the day it must be compelled by force. That's what government measures are for. There is a vast difference, a huge difference in terms of personal liberty and freedom between the government compelling behavior and a company saying that we are not going to provide certain types of coverage, and if you don't like that, you can quit or buy your own coverage. There's a vast difference. The gun's the whole issue.
I'm feeling really powerful right now.
For sure, by the way.
You're going to submit to us. Our time of liberalism is here. You drink that fluoride. You take those vaccines. Donald Trump says vaccines might be dangerous because one of his kids got hurt. Shut up! You don't have free speech. You understand? You listen to me. I rule this country now. I'm liberal. Screw him. Ban his free speech right now. Ban it! Let me tell you what else you do. You don't visit InfoWarsLife.com with the #1 new vitamin.
And brilliant seg. I mean, he segues right into an ad for some sort of fusion vitamin, so that's great. This guy, by the way, is considered a leading Trump ally, Alex Jones. I don't know why! I can't understand it! Look at this! Look what's underneath here! It's another shirt! Why? Why? Because I don't want to go to the cleaners that often, that's why. Come on. Okay, so it's just, I think it says something about our country when that guy is a leading is a leading advocate for one of the president.
How a lot of millennials think, and this is how the Occupy Wall Street movement thinks. This is a group of people who graduated with degrees in lesbian dance theory and then were surprised when they didn't get a six-figure paycheck out of college. I mean, this is, unfortunately, they were getting a paycheck consummate with their education level. The problem is that if you have to be productive in a capitalist society in order to earn anything. And this is, unfortunately, a lazy generation, a generation that expects things. And ignorant and communist is no way to go through life.
Most dealers are good. Gun dealers are good. Let me finish. But the NRA has all but neutered the ATF. All but neutered. And there are, well, we haven't had an ATF director for the last 10 years. We haven't had an ATF director for the last 10 years because the NRA won't even allow us to have a Surgeon General because the guy wanted common sense gun control.
Well, the ATF is a little bit busy smuggling guns south of the border to drug cartels.
And say whether or not he should be considered someone who is a hero and inspirational to other young men out there.
Well, here's actually the problem that I have. I think that you can accept and tolerate people's behavior, and that, demonstrates non-homophobia. I think that it is ridiculous to suggest that just because you're not celebrating, on the cover of Sports Illustrated, somebody coming out of the closet, and you think, it's relatively unimportant in the grand scheme of things because people should be able to live their lives the way that they want. I don't really understand. There were folks who were saying that that was a homophobic tweet. I'm still confused as to how it's homophobic simply to say that you don't think it's a heroic move in today's America to come out of the closet the same way that it was maybe 20 years ago.
Some people making below $15 an hour make ends meet by receiving government benefits in the form of food stamps and/or other subsidies. Some assert that this essentially means governments have enabled businesses to pay less and keep more for their bottom lines, resulting in subsidized corporate profits and people more dependent on government. Ben Shapiro, as a conservative who advocates for less dependency on government, why do you object to this reasoning?
I don't object to that reasoning. I think it's 100% true. I think the major problem that we have with regard to food stamps supplementing people's wages is that these companies are being paid off by the government. I mean, they're getting enormous subsidies from the federal government in the form of food stamps, and there are two ways that you can correct that in terms of wages. The first way that you can correct that in terms of wages would be with a measure like the minimum wage, which, as we'll argue about tonight, decreases, in my opinion, employment. The evidence, I believe, tends to show that it decreases employment, or at the very least puts a cap on it and makes it more difficult for small businesses to operate while big businesses are still getting these subsidies. And second of all, it creates a corrupt system where certain businesses benefit more than others. The second way that you're going to be able to prevent all of this is if you cut back a lot of these subsidies, forcing businesses to compete for labor. Labor is just like any other good in a free market. That means that people have to compete for it. So if you want wages to go up, then get rid of the government paying the other half of the wage, and you will see the wages automatically increase. I think that we should all be able to agree on the idea that wages need to increase. I think the difference is that the way to make wages increase is to have a fully consensual relationship between employer and employee. And I think this is really the root of the morality of minimum wage when it comes down to it. And in two sentences here is that I would never force an employee to work for an employer at a given wage. That violates the 13th Amendment and constitutes slavery or indentured servitude. By the same token, I would never force an employer to pay a given wage to an employee, because that is a lack of consent on the part of the employer and violates basic principles of fairness as well as freedom. And when it comes to college admissions, for example, there are more women than men going to college. That's correct. When it comes to graduate schools, there are more women than men going to graduate schools. Yes. Okay, when it comes to jail, which you just cited, the vast, well over 90% of the people in jail are men. Is that because the system is sexist against men? I would argue that the jailing system is now sexist against men because there are more men than women in prison. That's really your argument.
It does happen to also be the case that more men commit crimes.
There you go. let me tell you a little bit about the precedent in California for a second. In California, there are 30,000 mentally ill people who have guns. They have a grand total of 33 people, really, in the state of California who are tasked with taking these 30,000 guns away from these 30,000 mentally ill people. Okay, we're creating a system that is either not going to be enforced or it's going to be over-enforced. This idea, if we can just trust the government, then why aren't we just trusting the government to do the right thing now? I don't understand why a piece of legislation makes them better at what they do. I mean, the government is not very good at what they're doing now. Why does new wording make them not suck?
Because part of the reason